Hi everyone, it's Sean. What up? Welcome back to another video, and today we're taking a look at the latest episode in Season 3 of The Wheel of Time, The Shadow in the Night. Yes, we're going to walk through this episode start to finish and pick out as many Easter eggs as we possibly can. So if you love The Wheel of Time as much as I do, or if you just want to keep up with all of The Wheel of Time news, and trust me folks, there's going to be a lot of it in the coming months, consider making us your home for Wheel of Time news, subscribe to the channel, like the video, and of course tell all your friends. Now, since we are walking through this episode and we are looking for Easter eggs, we got to bring up our little handy-dandy red hand of doom here. He's going to tell us spoilers all the way up to and including Book 14. So, if you haven't read the entirety of the Wheel of Time series, it's The Eye of the World Through a Memory of Light by Robert Jordan and Brandon Sanderson. Be forewarned, I'm going to ruin plot points and character arcs from the entire book series, like I usually do during my Easter egg videos. But if you're not too concerned about book spoilers, this is the video for you folks, because we're diving into this episode right now. A lot to talk about in this episode, so we're just going to dive right into it. Cold Open is one of those things I super liked. We're going to talk about it in detail in my episode breakdown because it doesn't happen in the books. This is not a scene that has anything to do with anything in the books, but it's great. So we'll talk about it then. But essentially, we get to see Liandrin escaping her captors and going down to the Shackled Man statue in the port and sort of falling asleep. We know she falls asleep here because there's a hustle and bustle around here. There's tons of people. She's walking through everyone. She's asking for help. It's a port city. It's just got a hum of nightlife, and it will be that way all the way through the night. So her falling asleep and sort of waking up here when there's no one else around afterwards, that doesn't really happen. It's not going to happen. So she's likely slipping into Teleron Riyadh right now, slipping into the World of Dreams, because if there's no one else there, but she's in the same spot, makes sense. World of Dreams. Then we see Shamiel. Shamiel is the one that recruits her to become a Dark Friend and eventually Black Aja. And there's a lot of questions surrounding this. I've actually had a few people message me and ask me this. How is this possible? He's sealed in the Dark One's prison. We don't see him until the events of Season 1, where he's affecting the boys' dreams. So there's two explanations for this, I think. The first one, I think, is more show canon, and we're going to go with that first, then we'll talk about books. So show canon is, we knew he was able to affect the boys' dreams in Season 1, and he could do that. So it just stands to reason that he could do that with other people as well, even a few years earlier, because this is quite some time before the beginning of Season 1. Because Liandrin is very young at this point, she hasn't even gone to the tower yet. And we know that her son, who is a baby here, is very, very old. So we can only guess that this is probably somewhere between 60 to 80 years prior to the beginning of Episode 1 of Season 1. Ish. That's a ballpark, but it's a long time before. So we know that he can affect people's dreams in Season 1. Why can't he affect it in other times and spots? That's probably the simplest explanation for this. But the book explanation, I think, is way more interesting, and I'm going to go with that. So essentially, when Lews Therin and his 40 companions sealed the Dark One back in his prison, they seal him back into the Boar at the end of the Age of Legends, at the end of the War of Power. The 13 most powerful Aes Sedai that worked for the Dark happened to be there at the same time, and they are the Forsaken. And what luck, right? They just all happen to be there. They get sealed up with them. So in the book series, that's where they were, and we've also seen that in the show where they're put into separate seals and they can be broken free, and during Season 2, Shamiel broke everyone free. But Shamiel was the last one to be sealed up. And because he was the last one, he sort of, think of it as having 1 foot out of the seal and 1 foot in. So he wasn't fully sealed. He was conscious the entire time. He wasn't in a dreaming state like everyone else. And it just drove him even more mad than he already was. And because of that, in the book series, he was able to project himself into the real world and cause all kinds of mayhem. He just could. He could do whatever he wanted, so to speak, to an extent. And that cycle happened every 1,000 years. For about 40 years, he could roam the world, and he caused some really terrible crap to happen. So this could be during that time frame, but again, you're looking at it, it's definitely less than 40 years, or sorry, definitely more than 40 years before the beginning of Episode 1, Season 1, when he was affecting the boys' dreams. So 6 of one, half dozen of another. I really don't know what their thought process here was with this, but I think we can go with Shamiel wasn't fully trapped and he can affect the world of dreams as a good aside. Next, we get a shot of the Shackled Man of Tanchico on his knees and the two women behind him wearing the bracelets. We've talked about this in other videos before, but I want to touch on it again. These are in the books what's known as Dominion bands. They are essentially a male Adam. And it comes up again during the Hills of Tanchico song number that we're going to talk about in just a little bit. But essentially, this is a way to control kind of control a man who can channel at least for a little bit. And it showcases a very big plot device for this entire season of the Tanchico storyline. And it was in the books as well. They were looking for it. But again, that man, those two women here, that was what the statue actually looked like pre it falling apart. Thom Maryland talks about it later on. So this is a drawing of the statue itself with those bracelets and collar. Now we have this. So this scene was just wild. It was a super big call out to the books, and I loved it. Nynaeve's being bossy. That's what Nynaeve does best. She's called out for it here, and everybody's like, yeah, that's just how she is. She's telling everyone exactly what they have to do and where they have to go and how it's going, and Min is kind of questioning it. I thought it was wild. I thought it was really very good. But a couple other things here. Nynaeve's being bossy. They're telling Matt to go play cards. That's what Matt does. Matt dices for a long time in the book series because he can make some money dicing, but the real money's in cards. He's not quite as good at cards as he is dice because cards are not as random. So that is kind of a part of the storyline. Saying go play cards, I thought was kind of cool. And then Elaine, be subtle. She and Nynaeve will do the subtle things. This comes up in so many storylines when Nynaeve and Elaine are traveling together. They're never subtle. They always end up drawing a bunch of attention to themselves, and they always end up screwing up in some way, shape, or form. It's super fun to read, and the spirit of the characters and what they do here, that's a huge call out to them, and we can see it in this episode. I loved it. This is something I wanted to bring up. So the wise ones are calling out Egwene for lying to them, because I thought I said I could not lie. And Egwene says, well, I'm not an Aes Sedai either. I lied about that too. And then you get a shocked face. You get a shocked Pikachu face. You see in the background there. But that's it. That's where it ends in the show, and then they carry on. This is a call out to something that almost exactly happens the same way in the books. So she is called out a number of different times for bending the truth, because she's masquerading as an Aes Sedai. And eventually, she adopts Aiel cultures so much. She spends so much time in the Waste, so much time with the Wise Ones, with Avienda, with all the other Aiel, that she starts to adopt Ji'ito, and she follows it without question. And the guilt just eats her alive. Eventually, she comes clean to the Wise Ones, and she has to meet her toe, and they basically mercilessly beat her. And that's what they do in the books. And after they finish beating her, they're like, yeah, your toe's met. And then it's like nothing ever happened. I honestly think this was a call out to that entire storyline. And that storyline spanned books. It really did. And it wrapped it up in like 30 seconds. So it's just like, yep, same lines. I lied about that too. Exact same line for the book series. I thought I said I could not lie. Again, same line for the book series. But just wrapped up with a shocked Pikachu face and carried on. For an abridged series like the one we're getting with not enough episodes, not enough time, this is probably going to be that whole storyline just one and done. But it was a nice call out, at least with those two lines. They're direct copies from the books themselves. And this, we get to see Fain over top of the two rivers. A couple things I want to talk about here, actually. The first thing is the whistle. So he's whistling here. In Season 1, we got to see Fain a number of different times. And it was sort of like a Where's Waldo Easter egg hunt. Anytime he was coming on screen or would be nearby, we would hear that whistle. And you know to look for him. Back in my Easter egg videos I did for Season 1, it was one of the things. People were listening for that whistle and trying to pick out all the whistles. And it was kind of like a contest almost. We're not seeing that as much anymore because Fain is not as deep a part of the story as we've seen. But this is just a nice little call out to what they did in Season 1 with that, with him whistling. I thought it was really very cool. So now we're in the night market, as it's so affectionately called in the show, and you see a person in red tights in sort of a sequency type, kind of like a dragon scale shirt, actually, getting knives thrown at them as they're spinning on a spinning wheel. I've covered this before in the prequels for this, but essentially this is a massive call out to a chapter in the book series called A Question of Crimson. Now, this chapter is when Nynaeve and Elaine are traveling with Val and Lucas traveling menagerie, so it's like a circus. Essentially what it is a circus. And Nynaeve gets sort of talked into wearing this dress that she super doesn't want to wear. It's too low cut. She's very uncomfortable. She gets put on a wheel and Thom's chucking knives at her. So this was a nice little call out to that chapter because we're probably not going to see that entire storyline. It probably will be cut. Nice little call out here. Plus, we know Thom's coming back in this episode. A little bit of foreshadowing that Thom's coming for book readers. That was a nice little Easter egg they pulled out there. Now we're going to talk about Thom. First things first, take a look at Thom's cloak. So in season 1, Thom was just dressed in sort of like everyone else. He was not wearing a Gleeman's cloak. It was something we didn't see in season 1, and a lot of people clamored for it. During season 2, we saw a couple of other people in crowds that were Gleeman wearing Gleeman's cloaks. Now, Gleeman's cloaks in the book series are multicolored patches, just dozens and dozens of multicolored patches making up a cloak. It's the mark of a Gleeman. The fans clamored for it. They were like, Thom should be wearing his Gleeman's cloak. We didn't see him in it. We want to see him in it. Folks, here's Thom in a Gleeman's cloak. So I'm happy to be able to showcase this. I loved seeing him in this. It just made me happy. Next thing is Thom's hat. In the book series, Matt has a hat just like that. Matt happens to get that hat in the waist from a traveling merchant. And it's attributed to basically him living through impossible odds throughout many parts of the books. People think the hat's magical. People think it's got all kinds of these weird properties that helps keep Matt alive. Because Matt doesn't wear armor. Matt just wears his regular clothes. He comes out of battle mostly unscathed, little scratches here and there, but he's mostly good. But that is attributed to his incredible skill, his memories of all of the generals and people that could fight for thousands of years, and his immense luck. Matt's big Teveran power is his luck in the book series. Now we get to see a little bit of that in this episode, which we're going to talk about in a minute as a little call-out Easter egg. But people attribute all that to his hat that he gets in the waist. Thom's wearing that exact hat. Coincidence? I don't think so. I think we're going to see Matt kind of steal it from him later on, perhaps, at some point or another. Now this. Matt steals Thom's purse. And they have a little kind of back and forth here. This is a call out to the first season when they first met Thom, because Thom stole Matt's purse and kind of made fun of him. Gave back to him, of course, but that was how they first met. And you can see Thom kind of reaching into his belt here. Oh my God, my coin purse is gone, and Matt's kissing it. Nice little call out to the first season, their first meeting, because it happened, but tables are now turned. Very nice. Now we're getting into this. So this is something that just recently came to light on X, and I know not many people use X. I myself only use X right now to keep up with official Wheel of Time content, because that's where they tend to drop a lot of it. So I don't think a lot of people are going to see this, but you'll notice that the Black Aja and the Dark Friends and everyone else in the show is calling the Chosen the Forsaken. Now, in the book series, the Chosen were called the Chosen by anybody who was a Dark Friend. And in fact, there was a couple of slip-ups here and there where they called themselves or called other people Chosen in the books, where they called attention to that fact, that they knew that they were not for the light because they were calling them Chosen. But in the show, they're calling them Forsaken all the time. And Sarah Nakamura, the book consultant for the show, actually came out and said that this was one of those things that she had written up and caught during the script writing and brought it to the writer's room, but then the strikes happened. And once the strikes happened, they couldn't change the scripts. Nobody could even write one thing. That's just the way it worked with the strikes. Nobody could work, so it never got changed. They actually filmed the scenes with the scripts pre-changes, and so there was little errors like this in it. So folks, I want to say, could you imagine an entire season with no problems, considering that this season had a few, not many, problems in the background in production, just a couple, and it was wildly great. If we get another season when nothing goes wrong, it's going to be amazing, folks. But yeah, so that's part of the reason why they're calling each other Forsaken instead of Chosen. We move on to this. So we get to see Lanfear confronting Egwene, or the other way around, I guess, I'm not quite sure, in the dream world. So in Teleran Rayad, on this big wheel. This is a call out to the wheel. It's the exact same wheel that she used with Rand in season 2. I think it was kind of funny that now she's using it with Rand's better half in the show. I mean, they are still together at this point. That split doesn't happen until later on in the episode. But having her on this wheel is just sort of making things come full circle. Pardon the pun. she's moving through Rand, now she's on to Egwene. It's Lanfear's weapon of choice, I guess, in the world of dreams for the show. Now we have a nice little dialogue between Rand and Moraine. Now there's a couple things to call out here, but the first thing I want to talk about is Moraine. Moraine is much calmer. She's not trying to bully Rand into doing what she wants. She's not telling Rand exactly what to do. And this is because at this point she's recognized how to control Saedar, the female half of the True Source, and that's by surrendering to it. So essentially she's like going to go with the flow type thing, and she does that in the book series. people remark on it saying, well, you're not telling him what to do anymore. And she's like, no, I remembered how to control the one power. So that's what's happening during this conversation. And it's just kind of funny because they really hit the nail on the head by making the conversation about the two halves of the true source, and the differences between them. So she talks about surrendering, and he's saying, no, you can't surrender. You have to grab it. You have to fight it. So this does a couple of things. One, there's been always a little bit of ambiguity with the fandom, where people are saying, well, they're not really talking about the differences between the one power. They're not really talking about the half used for women, the half used for men. There's no differences there. This highlights those differences, and it brings it very much out in the open, in a conversation that also highlights how Moghedien uses the one power that comes straight from the books. A really nice little call out here. We have this, we have Padan Fain and a bunch of dirty, disheveled Whitecloaks showing up to the Whitecloak camp. Now, Padan Fain is masquerading as Ordeth here. He is a Whitecloak questioner, and that happens in the book series. He is with the Whitecloaks. He does show up as Ordeth, and a cool thing here is that these Whitecloaks are all dirty. They're gross. They're covered in blood. They're covered in mud. They're disheveled. Their hair is not cut. A lot of them are not fully clean shaven, or they have unkempt beards. And then you can take a look at the left half of the screen here with the actual Whitecloaks that are in the camp, and they're pristine. And no matter what, the Whitecloaks take pride in their appearance. They're a military organization, so they have that. They make sure that their clothes are pristine because their symbol is their white cloaks, and they make sure they're white. Whereas Fain and these other new Whitecloaks are all dark friends. So this is, a straight Easter egg from the books where he shows up and they're all just gross looking, and a lot of the other Whitecloaks are commenting on it, and you can tell by the other looks on the face of the Whitecloaks in the episode, they feel the same way. But I thought it was really neat they included this. All right, the Hills of Tanchico, folks. What an earworm, right? Like, everyone's going to be singing this forever. This year during What Idol, I'm sure a lot of you will parody it, and I'm hoping there's at least one or two parodies. I'm calling you folks out right now. I want to see at least a couple of Hills of Tanchico parodies. I think it would be absolutely wild to have that. But yeah, so what's the song about? Very obviously, it's about a woman's breasts. 100%. That is the connotations of the song. That like their movements, the way they're accentuating the parts of their body while they're singing it, that's what it's about. 1 is too few, 3 is too many, 2 is just right to bring a man to his knees. However, there's something else a little bit deeper here too. Remember, this whole city, Tanchico, in the show, is built around the Shackled Man statue. He's in the port. There was 2 women behind him with the collars, bringing him to his knees. I wonder, and this is just a thought, because I really don't know, because we don't know the writer's process in making the song. Remy Park, one of the writers, wrote this song. Great job, by the way. But to me, there's too much of a coincidence here where in the book series, when they're using the domination bands, there's a reason there's 2 of them. It's because it puts a lot of strain on who would be the Suldamane. That's why they have 2 bracelets, and 2 women use it to help control a man. Now, also, at some point or another, the man will be able to overcome both women. It's not a perfect forced link and kind of escape. So it's not a 100% solution to it, but considering the history surrounding Tanchico and this song itself, I wonder if maybe the song started out in the beginning as saying 1 is too few because 1 woman with a bracelet wasn't enough to call her a man. 3 is too many because there wasn't any made with 3. 2 is just right to bring a man to his knees. And then you have that statue of the Shackled Man on his knees with the 2 women behind him. Just a thought. It obviously has a very obvious connection to what they're trying to say, but I was wondering if that was perhaps something behind it as well. Either way, kind of neat. And I will say this, Keira Coveney can sing. That is her singing. That is her voice. She's doing that. She's so good. What an earworm. I love it. Now this. So this is Matt's sisters. And they heal Alana here. Now, Alana sort of coaches them through it, but one of the things that I wanted to talk about is that in the book series, Matt's sisters are incredibly strong in the power, just behind some of the strongest women of the age. A lot of the women that came from the Two Rivers are like that. So they're really, really strong channelers. And one of the big things that channelers, especially channelers within small towns like Emond's Field that are out in the middle of nowhere, they become wisdoms. and wisdoms are healers. So a fair number of wisdoms are very proficient in healing. And there is a talent, too, when it comes to healing. So them being able to heal Alanna was probably a conscious choice by the writers, because if they're out there and they haven't really learned to control their power yet, unconsciously, one of the things that a lot of wisdoms learn to do is heal with their power. That's how Nynaeve learned to heal with her power. Now, she's blocked behind anger because she would get mad at people for being hurt, then heal them. But not everyone has a block. So it's one of those things where this isn't as far-fetched as it seems, because they probably already have been touching the true source for a while, and they're probably, at least in some way, shape, or form, associate it with healing, because that's what all of the wisdoms here do. Now, they are not wisdoms in training, I will say that right now, but it's one of those things. If they did stay in the Two Rivers and they didn't happen to leave with Alanna in the book series, it's probably what one of them would have ended up doing, because they would have been recognized as being talented by the wisdom, Days Conger, and they probably would have been plucked out for that job or as an apprentice. So it's one of those things. This, oh my goodness, this scene here. This scene here comes directly from the books, ripped almost word for word when Moghedien uses her compulsion on Nynaeve and Elaine, and I loved every minute of it. Yeah. During the book series, Moghedien walked into an inn that both Nynaeve and Elaine were staying at in Tanchico and basically used compulsion on them to make them tell her everything they knew about the Black Aja, which is essentially what we see here. It was absolutely wild. Now, of course, some differences from the books, but this is a direct call out to those scenes from the book series. And then Nynaeve did find out later on what happened and was absolutely furious, which led to a confrontation between Moghedien and Nynaeve within the Panarch Palace. Great scene, folks. I don't say other than that. Now we're going to talk a little bit about Samael. Now, Samael, here, he is, you can see him opening a gateway. This is the second time we've seen gateways being used in the show, and they are very, very different from the way they're being described in the book series. In the book series, they are square doors. And that's how regular gateways work. True power gateways are something completely different. They look and feel a little bit different. This, I don't believe, is a true power gateway. I think what they have done is they have taken the description of how a gateway is made, and they're using that. So essentially, when a woman creates a gateway in the book series, they take one place and they take another place, and they think about them at the same time, and they kind of fold them together in their minds. So they become the same spot, and when the doorway opens, they are the same spot. You can walk through the doorway and go to the new place. Men do it a little bit differently. They bore a hole between one place to another to open the gateway. So this, what we've seen so far, we've only seen 2 gateways, and both of them were done by Samael. It is a rough hole in the air. So I'm wondering if they took that description of how gateways are made by men in the books and used it as a sort of the visual representation of it in the show. And we haven't seen one made by women yet, so I'm wondering if when we see one by women, it'll be more of a perfect square, kind of like not as chaotic and calm, versus this one, which is kind of wobbly, torn hole in the fabric of the pattern. That's my thought anyway. But I'll talk about this now. Samael has this sort of scepter with him in this battle between, I'm not really going to call it a battle. He gets the best of Rand when he attacks him by surprise, and then he just gets deleted in the next scene. Like, it was bad. Rand just kicked crap from him without even thinking about it. But he has a scepter. Now, this scepter, oddly enough, looks a little bit like another scepter from the book series. Now, in the book series, there is a scepter called Sarkhanen. I know what you're thinking. If you're a show fan, you're like, well, that is a crystal ball that Moiraine has. 100%. We talked about it here in the channel before. In the books, though, Sarkhanen was a male sangreal. And to me, it makes absolute zero sense that Samael would be carrying a big, massive hammer around with him for any other reason than to just smite people. This is probably also an object of power. We have nothing, I want to emphasize this, we have nothing right now that tells us that it is, other than the fact that when he's channeling, the end of it kind of lights up and you see a pattern around it turning it into an actual hammer so he can wield it. I'm wondering if this is their call out to Sarkhanen from the books, because Sarkhanen sort of looks like a long scepter with an hourglass at the end of it that turns into sort of like a mace for Demandred. Samael never wields it. He never has it. He dies long before it's introduced in the book series. But one of those things, you can't help but think that maybe perhaps that there is the call out to Sarkhanen. That scepter he has with the giant-looking kind of... looks like a compass rose around a square at the end of it whenever he channels into it. That's what it looks like to me. Now, this. So, when Rand grabs all of this power, and he just deletes Samael, like there's like 14 lightning bolts just to destroy the building around him and knocks him to the ground, you can hear whispering and screaming in the background. This happens a couple different times when Rand is holding the one power during this episode. And there is... The only things that I could make out, and I really tried my best to slow things down and hear things, was Illyana. So Illyana was actually one of the words that I was able to make out, but there are far more words said that I couldn't really. And you can't tell really who's saying them. We do know, however, that the person who plays Lews Therin in the show did do some audio for the third season. We haven't really seen him in the season yet in any way, shape, or form. I'm wondering if that audio that he did was for these moments. Because in the book series, as the madness starts to take a hold of Rand more and more, he hears Lews Therin in his head speaking to him. And eventually, at one point or another, they can carry on full conversations. In the beginning, it's whispers when he's just kind of laughing and crying and chittering in his head, and they don't really talk to one another. But eventually, Rand does start talking to him in his head. So I'm wondering if that was the audio dialogue, like the over audio that he recorded for the third season, was these whispers here. Now, I couldn't tell you what the rest of them were saying, but I could make out Illyana, which is Lews Therin's, or was Lews Therin's wife in the Age of Legends. The prologue for the Eye of the World, which Winter's Dragon, which is sort of a pilot of a TV show that never happened, that aired in sci-fi years and years ago, that starred Billy Zane, actually covered, was Lews Therin after he'd gone mad. He'd killed his entire family. That's why they called him Kinslayer. And Illyana was his wife. And when Ishamael came to him and cured him from the madness, he realized what he had done, and he was just racked by grief. And he screamed her name and drew a bunch of one power and burned himself out, and in doing so created Dragonmount. So I couldn't help but when I heard these whispers, and I really honed in on them, and I heard that one word, Illyana, it's got to be the gentleman who plays Lews Therin saying these things, considering he did some audio dialogue for the third season. Really cool, nonetheless. Now this, I don't know what to say about the scene other than it was absolutely heartbreaking, and it hit way harder than the same scene in the book series. Yes, so there was a scene in the book series where Rand tried to bring a young girl to life. And it was horrific to read. Essentially, during the Stone of Tyr, a bunch of Trollocs and Shadowspawn and Darkfriends assaulted the stone. And Rand was killing them all with a fire sword that he liked to create, which we haven't really seen in the show a whole lot yet. I'd like that to be more of a focus of his character going forward, but I don't think we're going to get that whole arc where he's reluctant to use the power except for to make a sword. And Lanfear came across and said, basically, you have all this power, you have the most powerful Sangreal in the world, and you're not using it. You're using a sword. And so he unknowingly created this weird-looking ball. It was like a ball, almost a dark matter. Lightning shot out of it, and the lightning would shoot out and kill all the Shadowspawn. And it just went through the entire stone and killed all the Shadowspawn. Then he came across the body of a young girl. And he did exactly what he did in the show. He laughed, he cried, he drew as much as the one power as he possibly could, and he tried to bring her back to life. And he was like, I can do this, I can do anything, I'm the Dragon Reborn. And he fails miserably because you can't heal death. This scene here was so much more impactful because in the book series, it was just a nameless young girl that he came across in the Halls of the Stone. In the show, we've met her. She's Rorik's great daughter. Rand has tow to her. And this is the first, I believe, of the deaths that he's going to remember in his mind. So in the book series, Rand keeps a running tally of all the women who died for him. Now, the Maidens of the Spear carry his honor. They're the ones that follow him around and protect him, and every time one of them dies, he feels immense guilt over it. Like, just crushing guilt. Doesn't feel the same way when men die for him, but when a woman dies for him, he feels really, really, really horrible guilt, and he burns their names into his mind, and he goes over that list over and over and over again. We haven't seen that in the show yet, But Alcera, I think Alcera is going to be the first name on that list. And I think we're going to start seeing that list in the coming seasons. It's just wild to see. All right, let's bring me back up big here, and we'll give my closing thoughts. All right, folks, banger of an episode again. Every single episode this season has not missed. I've loved every single one of them. Great stuff. So what's coming up in the next couple of days? Well, I still have that interview with Thomas Napper that I haven't released yet. I'll likely release that tomorrow. That's probably what you folks are going to get from the channel tomorrow. Monday will be the breakdown of this episode. That's what we're going to release. That's where we'll talk about the differences between the books and the show and some things that are the same. And then Tuesday, I have another interview, one with Kay Alexander, who plays Min. That'll likely come out Tuesday. Wednesday will be anything we have for Walt Wednesday, plus maybe my interviews I do on Monday, if I get them back in time. Sometimes it takes a couple of days for Amazon to get those interviews back to me. We'll see. And those interviews Monday would be Marcus Rutherford and Isabella Bucari, who plays Fail, and Marcus plays Parrot. So that's what's coming up until episode 7. Now, episode 7 is Golden Eyes. That is coming out Thursday morning Wednesday night, midnight, Thursday morning, midnight. It depends on how you look at it. Pacific time, and that's Golden Eyes. We're seeing the Battle of the Two Rivers next week. It's going to be a big week, folks. You're not going to want to miss this. So keep an eye out for all the videos on that. Plus, I will have some updates for you on some other Wheel of Time projects. Probably not until after the end of the season, but maybe I'll have some things before then. But there is some other stuff coming up in the next few months. Some really cool stuff, by the way, too. And I can't wait to talk about that a little bit. So that is coming. Other than that, let me know in the comments down below what you folks thought of this episode, and how excited are you for Golden Eyes. We're going to get to see the Battle of the Two Rivers, folks. That's next week. Wild. Thank you so much for sticking with us here to the very end. Here's to many more.